Canalíon is le dul.
Agus a híisi, tá mig fille a ríis Cúrsaí Tithíochta, níos curta rá aspa Tithíochta, agus go háirid an cinenne atá déanta agah agus an cinenne a tucaí I bhaim a márach lán na Namadán, nach mai cosanseir be sinonta ó híomh Díshealbhú. Taoiseach, I'm returning to housing, and I would hope that you might answer and deal with the issues I'm raising in a calm, dignified manner without trading insults. So, tomorrow, April Fool's Day, there'll be no protection for tenants who can be evicted on a no-fault basis. You didn't come into the Dáil and tell us why you were doing that and what analysis you had done. You did not come in proactively and ask for our cooperation for reasons set out. You reacted and made up your government as you went along. Now, I say that consciously because today I'm looking at the Simon report. And the Simon report, it's the 29th report. I've used the Simon very often in here, and it came out today. It's their 29th snapshot over 3 weeks, 3 days in March. And what do they tell us? They tell us there's absolutely no properties available under HAP in 16 or 17 areas that they just looked at, in particular Galway City and Galway suburbs. No, this is your big step, the HAP payments. There are no properties available. Now, I'd ask you to read this report because they put it in context and they tell us there have been significant increases in the average rent, which have been quoted here ad nauseum. Increases in rents have been twinned by an ongoing contraction of supply. Ireland, and this is important, Taoiseach, Ireland has witnessed record high numbers in homelessness for 7 consecutive months. While the effect of the current moratorium, which will end tomorrow on April Fool's Day, is still to be fully understood, clearly Simon is telling us it has prevented homelessness. Now, I would call this a cruel, heartless policy from a government that put political expedience to the top. Rather than do this next year or in a different way, you did it with an eye to the local and European elections, without a doubt. Now, I've asked, and other colleagues have asked repeatedly, what is in place? And the Taoiseach casually said, let them go to Threshold or let them go to the other organisations. This morning on the radio, we had the CEO of one of those organisations telling us that since COVID alone, they're overwhelmed and only 1 in 3 of their phones get answered. 1 in 3 people ringing get answered. Have they got extra resources? No, they have not. They're a small NGO that the Taoiseach told people who were going to be evicted to go to. That was the answer from you. So I am asking you, as Simon has asked you, as everybody on this side of the House has asked you, will you see sense? As Simon said this morning, it's never too late to undo a bad decision. And this particular one is bad, cruel and unacceptable.
Well, again, first of all, I would say to the Deputy that the Government have provided a rationale for the decision and did from the outset. And it's one that I said here earlier this morning. And it's this, that an indefinite ban, or an indefinite eviction ban, would make the situation far worse, would create a greater exodus from the rental market of more properties, whereas what we need is more properties coming into the market. And we need to create a framework whereby we have more people who come into the market who are willing to let out their properties, and we need to stop houses from exiting the market. That's the economic rationale. And I haven't heard anybody yet, you may have a different view, I accept, who are suggesting that an indefinite ban on evictions would help the housing situation or would ultimately help the homeless situation in the medium term. I haven't heard anybody actually articulate that an indefinite ban is the way to go. And that was the underlining. The other key factor, I would say, and again, members in the House won't want to accept this, but there's been an extraordinary increase in population over the last decade or so in Ireland. That has been a very significant factor. Notwithstanding that we built 30,000 houses last year, which is a 45% increase in the previous year, and I know COVID had an impact on that year, the reality is now we're over 5 million people. I mean, 40,000 additional people came in via work permits alone last year. That's not counting the numbers who come in from Europe to work in Ireland within the European Union. And we've had exceptional situation in terms of accommodation more generally because of the war in Ukraine and because of a fivefold increase in asylum seeking in the country. So the pressures population-wise, if you stand back objectively and look at it, it's clear to me why, even notwithstanding significant house construction, and we need to do more, that the pressures are as they are. Now, in the context of the lifting of the eviction ban, very specific measures have been provided for and additional resources have been made available to deal with, for example, those who may face eviction in the house where we're saying the council should buy the house and prevent homelessness. We're also saying in terms of the cost rental scheme to expand that in terms of giving options to people not to have to leave their homes, and introducing 1,000 targeted leasing units. We can go beyond the 1,500 tenant in situ purchases in 2023. We've overhauled the capital advance leasing facility to boost supply, and we will build more social houses again this year. We've definitely, without question, made a very significant change in terms of the number of social houses that have been built over the last 2.5 years. That can't really be questioned. We need to do more. And we need to do more on the social housing front, affordable housing, and also in terms of the private housing market. I can rud us talk to your fad now. Shane I'm ag an realtas. Ní smó tithe a chrathú. Gach éon cór is féidirling a chóirta daoine atá gan tithe. Agus má sléir, tá sé sléir a norig mar hampla. De bhí sús le míle ceracéad a tháinig amach as homelessness. About 1,491 exited homelessness in Q4 of last year, which means we are preventing a lot of homelessness and enabling people to come out of homelessness. And many of the bodies that you referenced, for example, the Housing First policy with our agencies has been a significant and effective intervention by government.
You know, Taoiseach, nobody has asked for an indefinite ban. Nobody. So okay. That's spin. I wish you'd stop the spin. This is far too serious. And I wish you'd explain to people where they're going to go tomorrow. That's number one. Number two, in relation to housing, this didn't happen overnight. This is the direct result of government policies for a very long time. The announcement by the LDA yesterday, ostensibly a positive one till we look at the details. A similar announcement was made back in 2017, April, 6 years ago, by Minister Coveney at the time in relation to what public land was available and how many houses could be built on it. And so you have proceeded, each government, to rely on a market which has made matters much worse. When you talk about social housing, it's because of the HAP payment. I spent 17 years of my life on a council. I watched HAP being brought in by Labour and Fine Gael. I watched it as the turning point in changing our housing policy, and people were taken off a waiting list. My time is up. There's so much in relation to this, but I'll finish by saying I am sick and tired of the traded insults across the Dáil. I'm sick and tired of the spin, and it's time that you listen to us. We're here, we represent people, and we have very, very good ideas in relation to how to sort out the housing problem, and it's not based on the market, although the market does have an important role.
Tánaiste.
I haven't traded insults with anybody, Deputy, and I haven't traded insults with you in particular. And I responded to you courteously and with respect. And I have to put that on the record, because very often commentary is made as if we're trading all the insults. I'm not. You asked for the and I accept what you've just said, which I think is a very interesting point you've made, that no one in this House has called for an indefinite ban on eviction. That was the rationale for lifting the eviction ban in the first instance. So now the issue is timing, it seems to me, or the duration of an eviction ban. It seems to now be where we are. Because other parties are saying we should do it, originally they said Christmas week, then they said the end of January, and now there's a new iteration coming of that. And in addition, I made a point earlier, I believe in building social houses. Back in government 2.5 years, 20,000 social homes have been added to the social housing stock since this government was formed. I don't believe in an over-reliance on HAP. I think we need to build, and the approved housing bodies have done a significantly good job in completing projects. And in respect of homelessness, the Housing First strategy, which many homeless organisations came to us, or bodies like Simon and others, Peter McVeigh Trust, who said we need to change. This was some years back, admittedly. And the numbers of Housing First have really expanded very considerably, with very good results as well in terms of retention and people staying on. So But what's key now is that the measures that have been provided for are effective in preventing homelessness in a very difficult situation as the eviction ban is lifted. I accept that point, and that's what we're working for and focused on.
Deputy Michael Collins.